What's going on YouTube? It's TH back again with another video, and today I'm giving you my picks for week 3 of the NFL season. Really looking forward to another weekend of NFL football. Hopefully you all are as well, and hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want more football content in your life, all you gotta do is hit that subscribe button and comment your takeaways for my predictions for week 3. Comment your picks. Where am I right? Where am I wrong? Also, I love when people are interacting and commenting on my videos like I did with my power rankings video. I don't mind people calling me a clown or an idiot or thinking that I'm just off the wall with what I'm thinking. My day job is in a position where I get paid to talk about sports, so you're not going to hurt my feelings. So go ahead, comment your thoughts. Tell me why you think I'm wrong. I love football. I love sports, and I just love talking about it with people. So that's why I started this channel. I'd love to have your input. Long story short, tell me what you think about week 3 of the NFL season down in the comments section. Without further ado, I am going to change this video up. I was looking at my analytics, and typically the back half of the video where I talk about the spread, the viewership goes down a little bit. So I'm just going to condense these videos and just go through my predictions for week 3, basically picking the winner and the loser. I am going to do it on the spread side so I can talk about maybe a couple games where maybe this first game where I'm going to pick the Panthers to win, but there's a small chance where I think the Texans could cover the spread, and that would ultimately be my pick. I'm taking Carolina to win. They improved to 3-0. A big part of that is no Tyrod Taylor. I mean, that really feels like a big blow to this Texans team that honestly hasn't looked that bad. It's interesting. You look at their offseason, right? They added all these veterans, 1 to 2 year deals. They're like okay football players, nice pieces to have if you're a championship roster and that's your third wide receiver or your third corner or whatever the case may be. But all in all, it's also given them a nice baseline to work with. And David Culley, all in all, done a nice job as the head coach so far. Davis Mills, definitely up and down in that relief appearance of sorts. We'll see how it looks. Also, got to give a ton of credit to the Panthers defense. Been better than I expected coming into the year. Derek Brown's a beast. Brian Burns was, if you're familiar with my channel, a dark horse and my favorite bet going into the year for Defensive Player of the Year. So I like Carolina and a lot of those young pieces on defense. I think this is a game where they can really take advantage of Davis Mills' third NFL game, first career start. It could get a little bit wayward, but that said, Houston's exceeded my expectations. And an 8-point spread, pretty big margin. Wouldn't hate if you took the Texans against the spread. Washington and Buffalo. I think Buffalo started to get back on track, and going back a year, got to a little bit of a slower start when it comes to their passing attack, and it took some time before it all started clicking. Not necessarily a great matchup for you to be saying, week 3, the Bills are going to hit their stride. But that said, also the Washington defense has been a little bit disappointing. It hasn't quite been as elite, right? Like Daniel Jones behind that offensive line last Thursday was kind of dotting him up, right? He played really, really well. William Jackson III didn't play fantastic. I still think he's a good signing for that team. But defense can be really volatile, and it's tough to project what unit's going to be good and which one's going to struggle, and a lot of that comes down to week-by-week variance, and some guys piece it together quicker than others. Some guys have good weeks while others have bad. Sometimes it all comes together. It's so hard to try to predict. I do like this Washington defense, but I also love the explosive nature of this Bills offense, and I think the passing game gets that much better here in week 3, and if they can continue to put together not necessarily as good a rushing attacks they did last week, because I don't think that's sustainable, but if they can run the ball with some good efficiency, Zach Moss is forcing missed tackles, Devin Singletary gives you some big runs, and then offense is looking really well rounded. So I'll take the Bills. Spread wise, I'd probably still go Buffalo. It's tough though. Depends on what you think about Taylor Heineke. On the road, Bills Mafia, yeah, I think it's a little tougher of a task than Heineke playing at home. Bears and Browns, they did announce that Justin Fields is going to start this game, so this line probably moves a little bit, but I'm definitely taking Cleveland to win. They're just a better football team right now. And where I do think the Bears did a good job last week stopping the Bengals' rushing attack, that's obviously a little tougher to do against maybe the best offensive line in football and probably the best running back duo in football, and a great scheme to go with it under head coach Kevin Stefanski. So really like the Browns overall. The talent just looks fantastic. Though this is going to be a really fun matchup, and one that maybe not going to be talked about a whole lot as a matchup, as opposed to it's just OBJ coming back. But OBJ versus Jalen Johnson. And Jalen Johnson was great in the first 8 weeks of last year, but then he got hurt, and I was just worried about what is he going to be when he comes back. Through 2 weeks, he's looked like a future CB1, looks like a star in the making. And if it's Jalen Johnson and OBJ, that's a really enticing matchup, but I'm still going to take the Browns. Lions-Ravens, man, I'm really interested to see if the Lions have any sort of answer to slow down the rushing attack for Baltimore. I don't think they will, so I'm definitely taking the Ravens in that one. 9-point spread's pretty tough. It's in Detroit. We saw the Lions have a backdoor cover week 1 against San Francisco, and it was around the spread, right? It was at 8 points. Detroit at home. That late comeback. And plus, Detroit looked good in the first half against Green Bay. But I think the Ravens, now we're starting to get into the season where teams are clicking. Things are starting to piece together, right? The Green Bay is a good example. It takes basically 6 quarters for them to start feeling like Green Bay again, but that eventually got there this past Monday. I'll take the Ravens over the Lions for sure. Titans, Colts. If Carson Wentz was playing, this may surprise people who are familiar with the channel and know I'm not high on the Colts. If Carson Wentz was playing, I would really consider Indianapolis here. And when it comes to the spread, I'd almost certainly take them if it was 5 points with Wentz. I think the Colts in a lot of ways match up really well against Tennessee, right? Kwity Paye looked like a pretty nice addition to that pass rush, more than a pretty nice addition. Good piece moving forward, no doubt. And then DeForest Buckner on the interior, I feel like he could cause a lot of mismatches. The cornerback room has been a little iffy for Indy, and the safeties haven't been quite as good as they were last year, at least from what I've seen. That said, Tennessee looked like they got back to normal last week, basically in the second half of that game against Seattle, and kind of like what we talked about, Green Bay took 6 quarters for Tennessee to kind of figure out their identity and feel like themselves. Jacob Eason is an interesting wild card in this one, but I'm going to take what I know I'm getting out of the Titans, though the Colts defense could force the Titans to get to a slow start, but also Derrick Henry. I mean, if he's getting 40 touches in a game, you're not going to beat the Titans. I mean, that man is unbelievable how much better he gets throughout a game. Chargers coming off a loss, so 6.5 points feels like a spread that you might want to put some money on with the Chargers being able to cover that. I don't know if they're necessarily a full touchdown worse than Kansas City. Kansas City, probably the best team in the AFC. I would say the best team in the AFC despite coming off a loss. If not for the Odafe Owe incredible play forcing the fumble against CEH, that's a win for the Kansas City Chiefs. And we're talking about a very different outcome, obviously, and a very different narrative around the team. They are at home. Arrowhead's tough to play at. But the Chiefs have played 2 close games against the Browns and then the Ravens. So who's to say the Chargers can't do something similar? I don't think the Chargers are as good as the Browns or the Ravens for that point. But division games are always interesting. So because of that 6.5 point spread feels a little wide. But all that to say, I'm definitely taking Kansas City to get back into the winning column. Here's an interesting one. I'm going to take the Patriots here. This is such a wild card game because if I'm getting New Orleans from week 1, yeah, give me the Saints, despite them being on the road. Absolutely. Look incredible against Green Bay. But if I'm getting the Saints from last week where didn't really look that efficient, run the ball, Alvin Kamara, not really a big factor in that game, which is just super surprising. Again, credit to the Panthers defense. But I think I'm just going to trust what I know I probably will get from New England as opposed to trying to pick what I might get from New Orleans, if that makes sense. I think Mac Jones is going to continue to get better and better week by week. That Patriots defense looks really, really solid. Obviously, they're not going against a rookie like they were last week with Zach Wilson, but Jameis Winston is prone to mistakes. Who says Bill Belichick can't, force them here in this week 3 matchup? Plus, it's really tough to play in Foxborough. I know Patriots lost week 1 at home, but if not for a crazy forced fumble, kind of similar to what we talked about with the Chiefs, if not for Xavier Howard making that play, then that is almost certainly a 2-minute drive down the field. Mac Jones gets them into field goal position. They start the year 1-0. That's just the way I see it, though. I'll take the Patriots at home nonetheless. Man, Falcons Giants. I'm going to take the Giants. I think they looked pretty good last Thursday. The offensive line definitely didn't. They have got to find some sort of unit, 5-man group that can just be okay, especially on the interior, man. It's really disappointing to see how Will Hernandez is not taking that step forward. I really liked him after his rookie year. Liked him before his rookie year, coming through that draft process. And, Andrew Thomas, a little up and down. I think this is a game where you're not going to worry about it as much because the Falcons' pass rush is near non-existent. And Nate Solder hasn't been fantastic, but again, you're not going to be as worried about that against Atlanta. So because of that, Atlanta's not necessarily a team that's going to take advantage of the Giants' glaring big hole. So that on top of New York being at home, I'll take the G-Men. Steelers and Bengals. Had to think about it for a second. I'll take Pittsburgh at home, but I'm definitely not positive about it. I'm picking a lot of home favorites, which is a little concerning too, because obviously it's not all going to line up like that. But I'll take Pittsburgh. Their defense is the best single unit, right? Like if you're looking at the Pittsburgh defense, Pittsburgh offense, Cincy offense, Pittsburgh defense is the best. Hopefully TJ Watt is playing in this game because obviously he changes how you look at this by a lot, by a very wide margin. Also, what's going on with Big Ben, the pec injury, he's questionable. So At this point of Ben's career, though, I mean, I think he got a little bit better, I guess, in week 2. He just is not the same guy, and it's clear. He's still getting used to the Matt Canada offense, I'm sure, but my hopes and my feelings about Big Ben have changed a good bit over the last 2 weeks that I've seen Pittsburgh, and obviously as a fan of the team, I might be a little bit more polarized to just give up and lose hope, trying not to get my hopes too high on this team. Cincinnati, Zach Taylor in specific, one time last year outcoached Mike Tomlin, which is crazy to say because Zach Taylor definitely on the hot seat, but that Bengals offense could get going, and Pittsburgh secondary, especially with no Joe Hayden, looked a little iffy last week. Cam Sutton's okay, but Minka Fitzpatrick gets a guy behind him, and Henry Ruggs, he does that to a lot of people, but his speed is dangerous. But nonetheless, that Pittsburgh secondary could be too big of a fault that the Bengals don't exploit, right? Like, I could see the Bengals' strength just absolutely getting the best of the Steelers' biggest weakness on the defensive side of the ball and ultimately coming away with a road win. But I will take Pittsburgh for right now, but I'm not liking this streak of picking home favorites. Jags-Cardinals, I'm going to say the Cardinals get to 3-0. The Jags are they just haven't looked good. And I think this is another game where Chandler Jones might go crazy. J.J. Watt might have a big outcome. I really liked Isaiah Simmons, man. He is just, now that they've given him a set position, ever since, I guess, about midway, 3 quarters through last year, they just played him at inside linebacker. And that's where he has been. And he has looked really nice when they're not just trying to bebop him around. Really like this Cardinals. Think they get out to a 3-0 spot. And then we're going to start having conversations on the channel. Are the Panthers real? Are the Cardinals real? Are these teams destined to make the playoffs? Starting 3-0, definitely getting out on the right foot if you were to say they are. I'm taking the Broncos at home. The Jets' offensive line has not been as good as I was thinking it was going to be. Obviously, losing Mekhi Becton, a huge blow to that. But also Zach Wilson, he looked good in the preseason, but especially against pressure, he has not looked like the same guy. And this Denver defense looks as good as it gets. Bradley Chubb does look like he's going to miss some time. Will return eventually this year, but had to get some minor knee surgery. Going to miss a little bit of time. So that's a bit of a damper on this. But Von Miller looks like he's pretty much back to where he was a couple years ago pre-injury. And I think the front seven for Denver could run rampant against the Jets. I think they stop the run. I think they cause a lot of pressure against Zach Wilson. And also, not to mention, this secondary for Denver is full of playmakers. So I'm not saying Wilson's going to throw 4 picks like he did last week, but it might be another not pretty performance for the rookie from BYU. Dolphins and Raiders. If Tua's playing in this game, I think this is a sneaky upset road win. But Jacoby Brissett and plus Derek Carr looks fantastic. I mean, we talked about Minka Fitzpatrick having Henry Ruggs get behind him. What an absolute dot that was from Derek Carr. I mean, you could not have made that throw any better. And they're at home. We're going to get to the conversation as well with the Raiders. 3-0. Are they real? Are they going to make the playoffs? The AFC West will make that path a little tough. They're going to have to continue to play good football. Raiders typically got to hot starts and they'll cool off, at least over the past couple of years under John Gruden's second stint with the team. But hey, I like him at home over Miami with Jacoby Brissett under center. I'm going with an upset pick here. Bucks are favored, and I totally get it. Like, you're probably clicking off the video already, but if you're still with us, the Bucks are the best team in football, in my opinion. If you saw my power rankings, you see that. But I've said this in a number of videos. I think the Rams are going to be the story of the first quarter, first 6 games or so of the NFL season. Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, the new offense, because we talked about it all offseason. And then, at least so far, it's looked good, especially week 1 against the Bears. It looked really, really good and had those big plays. But I think here in a home win, you knock off the reigning champs. That narrative is just going to keep building up. And then we'll get to week 5, 6, 7, and we'll see if that momentum is still there. Is the offense still clicking? Is the defense good enough to be basically Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and then league average guys thereabout? That's obviously generalizing. There's other players on that team that are pretty good and on that side of the ball. But I'm going to take the Rams at home here. I know it's definitely risky, and definitely when you're looking at the teams on paper, you take the Bucks. But I'm trying to think outside the box here and do something a little different, which, by the way, I should have the record up on the screen earlier in the video. But if I didn't, I went 10-6 last week, so 16-16 overall. And sometimes you just got to think a little outside the box. And I think the Rams will be the storyline in the first quarter to half of the season. And I think this game will be a big part of why. Seattle, Minnesota. Seattle should have won that game last week, and if they win, like let's say that missed extra point doesn't happen, they hold on in regulation before going to OT. Is this spread at 1.5? No, it's not. It's spread out even more. And, that game kind of highlights where I might have some concerns with the Seattle offense, where it just kind of dies off, reminiscent to the second half of last year where it's just poof gone. But, man, I really worry about this Minnesota secondary. I'm hoping to see more Cam Dantzler. At this point, if the secondary is going to be bad, let it be bad and young as opposed to bad and old with Rashad Breeland and Pat Peterson just not looking like they're the same guys. Breeland was never that dude, but he was always a solid veteran. He just is not. He's not that guy. And Cam Dantzler at least has the athletic ability to keep up with someone like Tyler Lockett. So you have a fighting chance down the field. I'll take Seattle, despite them being on the road. And the Vikings falling to 0-3 if this were to come through. Had to make it in the playoffs, so I'd definitely be a little bewildered by that. And then we get to, I think, the toughest two games to pick this week. Green Bay and San Francisco. You go back to 2019. 49ers defense was better then than it is now, especially in the secondary. You still had Richard Sherman, who apparently they're in contact with him, but I don't know what his off-the-field situation or his mental status is like. And then Green Bay in the second half last week looked like the Packers that we expected to potentially be Super Bowl, contenders this year. But this pass rush for San Francisco does look really good, and that could cause a lot of problems for Green Bay playing in San Fran. It's just a tough one. 3 points is the exact right spread because it's essentially a coin toss. The only reason the 49ers are favored is because they're playing at home. I feel like I might regret this pick, and I might be leaning too much into what I saw last week with the 49ers offense struggling, right? The only touchdown that we saw from Jimmy Garoppolo was a rushing score, QB sneak at the goal line. It's just still not looking pretty. Maybe this week we see some more Trey Lance, and I'm sure Kyle Shanahan's busting out, his A game for a, welterweight or heavyweight fight between two of the best teams in the NFC. But I'll take Green Bay, and part of it is if I was betting on this game, 3 points, you're going to give me some points, I'll take it. But this is going to be definitely the game of the weekend to me. As of right now, recording this on Wednesday, this is the game I'm most looking forward to watching other than, my favorite team in action. Eagles and Cowboys. I'm going to go Dallas here, and I think it's because they get out to an early lead and they force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball. They had to try to get the Eagles in a situation where the average depth of target is, getting further and further down the field, not 3.6 yards like it was against Atlanta. And basically they dictate the flow of the game and its course of action, and that doesn't fit to what the Eagles' strength might be on offense. That said, Quez Hopkins, 91-yard big play that doesn't end in a touchdown. Jalen Hurts had a money pass there. He had another one at Jalen Reagor that was ultimately not a completion. So he's shown he can throw the ball down the field. And I like Jalen Reagor as a guy who can do stuff underneath, but also catch it over the top. And I think Devonta Smith can do just about anything. Dallas is at home, and I really appreciated how much they used Tony Pollard last week. It seems like, and I'm really digging the offense Kellen Moore's putting together. I've watched every Cowboys game from start to finish. Not a fan of the team, but Kellen Moore, this is a guy who has moved up the top of my list as guys I want to see become a head coach because the offense is looking spicy to say the least. So I'll take Dallas at home, and that's going to do it for my Week 3 NFL predictions with some talk about the spreads there in it. Tell me what you think down in the comment section. Where am I right? Where am I wrong? Who's your favorite team? Do you think they win this week? Do you think they cover the spread? Love to have your thoughts. Seriously, love to talk some football with you down below. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel with more football content, just hit that big red subscribe button. That's going to do it for today's video. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.